Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Melanie Frank from Jesta I.S, and I'll be your moderator for what we think is one of the most important conversations happening in retail today. How do we bring the power of AI and machine learning to the masses, not just the tier one giants? Before we dive into it, there are a few housekeeping items. There's a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so I invite you to please add your questions to the top right-hand corner. Time permitting, we'll try and get to as many as possible. I will also launch a couple of poll questions at the end of the session. Please participate. And lastly, the presentation is being recorded and will be available post-webinar. So let's get started. If you follow the headlines, you'd think AI in retail is exclusively a billion-dollar game, something only the Walmarts, Amazons, and Targets of the world can afford. But mid-market retailers, companies doing 50 million to 500 million in revenue, represent a massive portion of the retail economy. They face the same challenges around demand forecasting, inventory optimization, and margin protection. They just don't have $10 million AI budgets or teams of 15 data scientists. The good news, 2026 is a watershed moment. The infrastructure barrier has collapsed. Cloud-native AI platforms, modular solutions, and composable architecture mean that mid-market retailers can now access capabilities that were just unthinkable just 2 years ago. But, and this is the big but, technology alone isn't enough. You need clean, organized data, you need a strategy for where to start, and you need practical ways to prove value before scaling. And that's exactly why I've brought together 3 perspectives today. Maya Hamilton from Sophelle, one of North America's most respected retail consulting firms, with over 30 years and 1,000 plus projects. Maya leads Sophelle's AI practice and works daily with retailers who are trying to figure out where to start. We also have Scott Pearson, VP of Sales and Marketing at Jesta I.S, and our division FarsightIQ, the retail native AI platform built specifically for this market. And we have Alberto Calzada from Xiatech, creators of the XFuse platform, an AI-powered composable platform for system integration, data management, and analytics. So with all that said, let's get started. Maya, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Melanie. There's a huge disconnect in the world of retail AI right now. On one hand, the mandate's absolute. Nearly 9 in 10 retailers are increasing their AI budgets right now. The message from the C-suite is clear: adapt or get left behind. But the hard truth is fewer than 5% have scaled AI meaningfully. Harvard Business Review just called this gap the micro-productivity trap, where good intentions get stuck in endless pilots. The pressure is no longer whether to invest. It's figuring out how to break out of that trap, cut through the noise, and find the one winnable project that actually moves the P&L. And underneath it all, you have the most important factor, the human pressure. Your teams are on the ground hearing the hype, and they're worried. They're seeing headlines about job replacement and wondering, is this tool meant to help me or take my job? This creates a kind of paralysis for mid-market retailers, and it leads to a set of very real, very difficult questions that we hear all the time. How can we possibly get started if our data isn't perfect? How can we compete with the big brands without billion-dollar budgets? How do we get our people engaged and avoid the fear and resistance? And the biggest one, with so many options, how do we find that one right project to start with that actually makes the difference? The goal of this webinar is to give you a clear, practical answer to those questions. My role today is to offer you a framework for how to think about these exact problems. It's a way to structure your thinking so you can find your own right answer while also identifying the foundational pillars you need to consider before you invest to ensure you're building on solid ground. I call it the AI readiness pyramid. Next slide. Before we walk through the pyramid framework, let's put on our analyst hat and take a look at where AI is actually delivering real quantifiable value for retailers today. When you cut through the noise, the real wins fall into 3 core buckets. The first bucket, and most importantly, is core operations and supply chain. This is the engine room of your business, and it's where AI makes the biggest impact on your bottom line. Let's look at 3 examples. Smarter demand forecasting. This is the classic AI win-win. You capture more sales by being in stock while also protecting your margins from having to mark down unsold products. It's the single most powerful lever for profitability and a topic I know Scott has deep expertise in. Getting this right is the difference between a healthy bottom line and a promotion-driven race to the bottom. Next, we have intelligent purchase order management. This turns your supply chain from reactive to proactive. Instead of finding out a shipment is late when it doesn't show up, the AI flags at-risk POs weeks in advance, giving you a chance to react. It gives you the one thing you never have enough time to solve a problem before it becomes a crisis. And third, optimize labor scheduling. This directly matches your biggest expense, payroll, to your biggest opportunity, customer traffic, ensuring you always have enough staff on hand without wasting money on overstaffing. Next slide. The second bucket is the new customer journey, where you use AI to create smoother, more intelligent experiences behind the scenes. For example, smart order routing. This directly impacts your shipping costs and customer satisfaction by automatically deciding whether to ship from a warehouse or a store to get the product to the customer fastest and cheapest. Analyzing customer service tickets. This is your early warning system. By having AI read thousands of support tickets, you can spot a recurring quality issue with a specific product before it becomes a social media crisis. And a huge one, returns prediction and prevention. Instead of just processing returns, the AI analyzes return data to find the root cause, whether it's a sizing issue or a misleading product photo, so you can fix the problem and prevent future returns, saving millions in logistics and lost sales. And our third bucket is internal knowledge and automation. This is about making your own team smarter and more efficient. Think about generative AI that can instantly answer questions for your planners. This gives your experts their time back. Instead of manually digging for data, they get answers in seconds for things like, what were sales of our red sweaters last February? Automatically generate weekly performance summaries. This frees up your analysts from writing reports so they can focus on finding deeper insights, giving leadership the information they need in plain English. And finally, automated markdown recommendations. This is a perfect junior analyst task. The AI can analyze sales trends and recommend which items need to be marked down and by how much, leaving the final strategic decision to your planner. These are the kinds of high-value, often unglamorous problems that AI is ready to solve right now. And they're the perfect place to start looking for your first winnable project. But knowing what's possible is different from knowing how to start. This brings us to the core of my presentation today, a framework for how to approach these projects, which I call the AI Readiness Pyramid. Next slide, please. This is your roadmap. You read it from the bottom up. Each layer represents a foundational pillar that must be in place to support the one above it. Now, you might think you start at the bottom and go straight up one layer at a time, but the most common mistake retailers make is right at the beginning. Now I'm going to introduce a concept I call the discovery loop, which is a dynamic relationship between the first two layers of the pyramid, layer 1, the data foundation, and layer 2, the strategic North Star. Here's how it works. You don't actually start with the data. You start with a broad business question straight from one of those buckets we just talked about. Let's take the most powerful one, smarter demand forecasting. Let's look at how this works in practice. Imagine a typical mid-market fashion retailer with about 50 stores. Their big question is, how can we get ahead of our inventory problems? This question, their potential strategic North Star, or layer 2, points them towards a general area of their data. Now they look at the data foundation, or layer 1, their sales, promotion, and inventory data. In exploring that, the real opportunity appears. They discover our top-selling product category has a 30% stockout rate, and it's getting worse. That was it. Their North Star is no longer vague, it's specific and measurable, and the goal becomes crystal clear. Let's pilot a modern AI forecasting model for just this one high-value product category. Now they can circle back to the data foundation layer 1 with laser focus. The goal isn't clean all the data or boil the ocean. It's simple. Let's get the last 2 years of sales and promotional data for that specific category ready for the project. And that's how you use the discovery loop between layers 1 and 2 to scope a winnable project, one with a clear finish line. And as Scott will likely touch on, this requires a willingness to experiment. A quote I love, "The cost of a small failed experiment is nothing compared to the cost of inaction." So we've seen how to use the discovery loop to scope a winning project, but a great idea is not enough. You also need to ensure that the AI can actually deliver value. This brings us up the pyramid to layer 3, the connected tech stack. The core principle here is simple. If your AI can't talk to your other business systems, the insights are trapped and worthless. Think about our forecasting example. Your new AI model might produce the most accurate forecast in the world, but if it's just sitting in a spreadsheet, what have you really gained? Nothing. For it to have value, it must automatically get historical sales data from your POS system, and its new forecast must automatically flow into the systems responsible for planning, allocation, and replenishment, and ultimately PO creation. Without that seamless connection, you're just creating another data silo. This is where having a clear integration strategy is non-negotiable, and I know Alberto will have some great insights on how to achieve this later on. Now, once your systems are connected, we move up to the next and arguably most important layer, layer 4, the human element. An insight from an AI is worthless without expert human judgment and an optimized workflow to act on it. It's a two-part process. First, you need validation. The AI is your tireless junior analyst. It might look at the data and forecast a 50% sales lift for a new item. That's a great starting point, but your veteran planner with 20 years of experience provides the crucial sanity check. They know a competitor is launching a similar item next month, so they adjust the forecast to 30%. The AI provides the data-driven suggestion. Your people provide the wisdom and final say. Second, you need action. Once the forecast is approved, there needs to be a seamless workflow to generate smarter replenishment decisions and accelerate PO creation. This isn't about replacing planners. It's about reducing manual analysis so they can focus on the higher value strategic decisions. Ultimately, layer 4 is about creating that powerful partnership. I'll repeat, the AI provides the data-driven suggestion. Your people provide the wisdom and final say. And finally, we reach the capstone that holds the entire structure together, layer 5, the governance layer. Now, governance can sound like a scary bureaucratic word, but let's think of it differently. Good governance is giving you the confidence to move faster. It's the guardrails on the highway that keep you safe. For a retailer starting out, governance boils down to setting clear rules in 3 key areas. 1, data governance. What data is okay to use? For instance, we won't use data from store closing liquidation sales to predict future demand, thereby avoiding faulty base assumptions. 2, model governance. Who's in charge? For example, the AI can suggest a forecast, but a human planner must always give final approval. And 3, ethical governance. Should we do this? For example, our AI will never use dynamic pricing to raise the price of essential items during an emergency. Setting these simple rules of the road don't need to be a complex multi-year project. Have the conversation with your team up front to define your principles. That's what gives you the license to experiment and innovate safely. Next slide. And this brings me to my final point. None of this, the framework, the technology, the data, works if your team sees AI as a threat. The goal here isn't replacement, it's amplification. We have to acknowledge that the fear is real. So let's be explicit about how we position this. Think about your best planner today. How much of their week is spent just wrestling with spreadsheets and pulling reports? Probably most of it. Too much of their expertise gets consumed by manual analysis instead of strategic decision-making. Now position AI as their newest, most tireless junior analyst. The AI is the one who handles the grunt work. It runs the reports, it analyzes the data, it surfaces the initial insights. You haven't replaced a planner, you freed them from manual analysis so they can focus on higher value decisions around inventory strategy, vendor collaboration, and margin optimization. That's the real opportunity with AI in retail, creating more capacity for teams to focus on strategy, decision making, and the customer. And that's the strategic framework for how to think about the problem. It's a roadmap that helps you find the first winnable project, like the demand forecasting example we walked through. But a map is only useful if you start the journey. So now it's time to move from theory to practice. I'll hand it over to Scott from Jesta, who will show you what a real world AI journey actually looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Real quick, FarsightIQ is actually a newly formed division of Jesta I.S. And I say newly formed, it's really an outgrowth, and it's been really 3 years in the making before we launched it as a new division within Jesta in January. We based a lot of our conversations, and here's where we get into the pyramid that Maya was just talking about. We had in-depth conversations with our customers, various analyst briefings, market needs and then analysis, and did a lot of insights to really come up with some items that we thought would bear the greatest fruit with the least amount of effort. So we really wanted to make sure that we provided real business value and to do it very quickly. I'm saying that in that we decided to focus mostly on the supply side of the supply demand story. So if you think about every transaction is really a combination of the customer journey and the product journey, and they come together when the actual transaction is occurring. And we saw that we could provide the most value, focus more on the supply side initially, phase one. We have a few initiatives now going that are more on the demand side, such as product recommendations, price promotions, etc. But this, you'll see as I walk through the capabilities and the business decisions that you might be taking into account are mostly based on the supply side. So looking at the overall system, as Maya was discussing before, hopefully you're asking yourself now through the 3 questions. Where do you want to start your journey? What's your broad business question? And where do you start your kind of discovery loop process? What we've learned from our customer interactions is that no 2 retailers start in the same place. And in fact, no 2 express the same needs. Some come with kind of clean data, but siloed systems, and therefore they feel they're not really ready to go yet. Others have connected systems, but no real governance framework, as Maya was just describing. And a few of them even just have everything's perfect except for the confidence to get started. So our goal here is to give you that level of confidence to get started. One thing in common, though, is they always need to be asking, what does good actually look like when this does work? That's why we put together FarsightIQ really as 6 distinct composable capabilities. Each one can serve as a destination, I guess, in this journey that we're talking about. Think of this as waypoints really kind of in the overall journey that Maya was just framing out. So your goal here would then be to determine what strategy, based on your strategy, which of these make the most sense, which provide the most urgent problem solving and prove value immediately, and to do it in a low cost manner to kind of incrementally do this over time. The first modules that we'll talk about, I'll run through a quick series of them, but the first one I want to focus on is ForecastIQ. ForecastIQ is really demand forecasting. It's the most common first destination for a lot of reasons. Traditional forecasts are censored. You're predicting constrained sales, what you sold and what you had inventory available at the time. You're not really forecasting true demand, what customers actually wanted. When you stock out, the system oftentimes thinks your demand stopped. When you overpromise, it thinks demand permanently spiked. ForecastIQ predicts unconstrained demand at the product, the store, channel level, and based on our ensemble machine learning algorithms or engine, it allows you to identify the appropriate products at the right time. I'll talk about the ensemble engine a little bit. The way that it's built is machine learning at the core. A lot of very robust algorithms are used. We started, in fact, with 100 model variants in 9 different algorithm families. And then we were looking at each product type, product category, site locations, channels, and all of those, and identified based on these types of products, in these types of sites and channels, what are the best aggregate blend of algorithms that you might actually use to apply. That's the ensemble model. So ensemble actually has 67, I think, right now. We're building on new ones, various algorithms that we train against, and then we identify based on that product type, which is the best algorithm. Normally, you're planning your forecast in two phases, really kind of the long-term phase or before pre-season planning, where you're looking sometimes 52 weeks in the future, and you're setting the kind of rules of the road as you build out your assortment. Then we're also looking at what I'm calling here short-term, but think of this as dynamic, real-time forecasting. So as the season is ongoing, now what's happening? How should I be adjusting my forecast? How should I be adjusting my inventory levels, etc.? So we're looking at that really first as an unconstrained demand, and then we're narrowing it down as I'm going into my actual season itself. And here's where Maya mentioned earlier, where this is where the human in the loop comes in. So while we can produce a very robust set of forecasts, people don't always trust forecasts. And unless they're involved in improving and they're really kind of approving those forecasts, and maybe in some cases they know of an event that's going on or something that's happening that the model may not have known of, they want the flexibility to go in and make adjustments and tweaks to that up or down, but then to also be able to track the success of the original model, of the humanly adjusted model, approved final model, and then kind of what the overall sales were. So that's where the human in the loop comes in. The result is generally roughly 20% improvements in forecast accuracy. Most often it is a first phase of a project because this serves as the foundation. Ultimately, when your demand is clear, every downstream decision improves as well. Which brings me to the next topic, which is Replenish IQ. Once the demand is clear, the next question really becomes execution. Most replenishment systems today still run on things like min max rules, recent sales, cadence, stock model, or static reorder points. If you sold 10 units last week, the system assumes that you need to have 10 more units in the store. That's making an assumption that your original decision as to the stock model was correct in the first place. It's reactive, it's not prescriptive. Replenish IQ flips that logic. It's based on future needs, not pre-season configurations that you put into the system. Instead of reacting to sales history, it replenishes based on forecasted demand, what customers are going to want, not just what's already happened. This means fewer stockouts, less safety stock, and better in-stock rates without really overbuying just to feel confident and safe that you're going to have enough merchandise. So we see improved outcomes in cash flow and shorter cash conversion cycles, reduced carrying cost. You have margin protection because you have fewer stockouts and fewer markdowns. There's a lot of values in this module in and of itself. Consumers choose this when their pain point isn't planning, it's the execution. Which brings me really to the next module, which is very similar, which is Optimize IQ. Optimize IQ is also taking that forecast demand and it's starting to now look at what you have in stock. So this is where businesses say, we don't need to buy more, we just need to fix inventory where it already is. Optimize IQ runs on a network-wide optimization to balance inventory across stores, distribution centers, the warehouse, etc. So the first place you're going to look is, do we have the merchandise that we think we're going to need in all of the locations? And if not, let's get it there. It may be pulling from, like I said, a DC or a warehouse. It may be pulling from other store locations, and it starts to weigh the best decision for your business. If your issue is more around having capital tied up in the wrong inventory, then you would use Optimize first. On the other hand, if your issue is more chronic stockouts, then you might look at Replenish IQ instead. But these two are kind of interrelated in that context. Many people will optimize first and then replenish after. But others may say, we don't really want to be moving merchandise around store locations, etc. Let's just go for replenishment. The next topic is on what we call Style IQ. For many retailers, especially seasonal retailers, the hardest part of forecasting isn't the existing items that you already have, it's what's new. Style IQ is an AI-driven product attribution engine that automatically enriches products with consistent attributes: fit, fabric, silhouette, pattern, by a fashion sense, those types of things. Forecasting is far more accurate when the new items are match similar items in the past. So if I'm going to forecast a new item, never carried it before, if I can compare it to other models or other products I've carried before in a kind of a cluster of products, then I'm going to be much more accurate in that. It's interesting because there's also an operational side effect that styles tend to get online faster. So once you get the goods in, you've taken the photos, you're ready to push it to e-commerce. If you have all these attributes, these facets, if you think it in those terms, it allows you to get your product online much quicker. So people are also seeing this sort of side effect of actually having it to market sooner and being able to sell the product in a quicker way and for a longer season. That's why FarsightIQ often shows up as part of that crawl phase. Let's look first at attributing our products. There's a side benefit, and then we're going to get better forecasts as well. It amplifies rather than really replacing forecasting. And people are generally seeing 10 to 20% longer selling windows because they get the product to market sooner, and 20+ increase in forecast accuracy. Which brings us to the next module, which really is Risk IQ. This is an interesting one. Risk IQ is really where we combine ensemble machine learning with Gen AI. And this is really designed to surface hidden risks. It's not always the first module that people look at, but I would say it's probably the most eye-opening. It shows you exactly where inventory investments are misaligned or costing you the most. Things that don't always show up in traditional reports because the stockouts don't look like they're lost sales. You don't realize that there's a stockout occurring. What Risk IQ does is it's think of it as kind of today's world, I guess they're calling it skills of an agent, an AI agent skill. It has a certain skill set. It's looking at very targeted approach. And in all instances, there's a number of these dashboards. It's looking at a regular basis at derived problems. AI determines, hey, you might have a problem here. What's the business impact of that problem? How is this impacting you financially in terms of lost sales or stale inventory or cash flow issues? And then it looks for patterns to say, why is this likely happening? Are there any patterns that you need to be aware of? And ultimately, lastly, it gives you recommendations. So those are all capabilities within Risk IQ. Very, very powerful engine. It's based on the next module, and the next module is Advisor IQ. Advisor IQ is your AI chatbot. It's your strategic growth advisor. And I say that not in that you're not just querying your data. It's a natural language interface that lets your teams ask in plain English, natural language, questions to get answers that are grounded on data, but also grounded on industry benchmarks. So there's two parts of this. The first one is we look at your data. We built out the entire semantic canonical layer that allows AI to fully understand your data in kind of plain English so that you bring back the data in the way that structure that you want it in. So it looks at your data and reports first, but then it goes out and does a second pass to say, now that I have this data, let's go look at best practices and what's going on in the industry. And let's give you some real world comparisons as to how your data is doing relative to the industry as a whole. That's where it becomes really powerful. So I can ask basic questions. What were my top stores? What are my top selling products? Those kinds of basic things. But I can also ask questions like, how can I improve my margins on this particular product category? And they can start doing research in that way for you as well. Very, very powerful set of tools. So this is oftentimes one of the first tools that people implement because it provides almost instantaneous value. So lastly is just kind of a quick overview again. Maya emphasized that you don't try everything at once. That's why we built these sort of more as modules so that you can do the crawl, walk, run strategy. Let's make sure you can prove value first in the crawl phase. Then walk as you add the next layer on top of that and see where your pain points are and where you can see the most value. And then running is really connecting all of that across the board. Every module that we have stands on its own for that reason, to help you build confidence step by step, which brings us kind of full circle. Maya gave you the map. I showed you some of the destinations or possible destinations, but none of this really works without the foundation at the base of the pyramid, which is really the data. So how do I really make sure that I have the data available today? You don't need to boil the ocean. You do need kind of a disciplined data, cleaned, deduplicated. You need to shape it appropriately. You need to make sure that it's augmented and enriched as necessary. And that's where Alberto and Xiatech come in. So as I turn it over to Alberto, I'll ask you to simply think about what's the use case that you're looking to accomplish, what's the lowest hanging fruit, and then how data ready am I in order to accomplish that. So let me turn that over to Alberto.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Scott. Yeah, great points made by my colleagues today. Don't try to boil the ocean. Let's focus first on your North Star and get the ball rolling. Really, this is AI is being democratized these days, and there's a lot of potential. So let's have a look at the data and orchestration side of things and how we at Xiatech help in that regard. One metaphor that we're using lately quite a lot in the organization is that of seeing your company, your organization as a city. So you will have different buildings. That's where your data is living, right? Your different departments, your categories, your merchandising, your marketing, etc. What we need in reality are also this road network that connects all of those different departments, gets all of that data together in one place, and then you can see the AI really like a van or a lorry or a truck going through that road network, picking up what is important from all of those bits and pieces that are living in different buildings and serving you in HQ or in a different sub-department, what really matters. So the way that we try to do that, we do that at Xiatech, is by providing all of that as one platform, which we call XViews. So integrating the systems in real time, that is providing that road network, unifying, managing, and orchestrating that data. So those traffic lights and signs in your road network, what data, how has to flow. And that really, once that is in place, that foundation, everything rolls from there, is what Maya's pyramid there from step 3 and above, right? And the different use cases that Scott mentioned before. We can deliver advanced insights and analytics using ML and AI. And then we can also provide the foundation for agentic use cases. So if we move to the next slide, I can talk a little bit about Xiatech. We've been around since 2013, so quite a while, and we have won a few awards, and we are part of the Mac Alliance as well. So our platform is composable, it's cloud native and headless. So yeah, we serve some of the largest retailers globally with transactioning a lot of events in real time per annum. So you say there are 100 billion events per. Not all of them are transactions. Some of those are customer events, others are pricing events, you name it. But every little event is like a small pedestrian in that city moving around different buildings in your organization, your POS, your Google Analytics, your whatever that is. Everything is an event. We capture that in XViews. So those are the data foundations and how we start building them. If you move to the next slide, you start to see probably that it's everything around data. So why data matters, and that's what we are going to start talking throughout this presentation. So we see that we have been partnering with Deloitte recently in Europe, and we have seen that a lot of organizations are trying or are saying that AI is critical to their future success. In fact, 94% of them. However, just a handful of them, just around 27% of those, they say they have successfully scaled AI across their business. We see a lot of AI pilots going on, MVPs, POCs, you name it, but it's very difficult then to take it to the next level. And that is many times going back to that data point. Is the data in place? Are we just building the pilot from an Excel spreadsheet that is never updated? Or are we building it from a siloed environment in which it's not really providing value? That's what Maya was saying before. If the result is staying in a spreadsheet and it doesn't go anywhere, what is the value really and the ROI that we can achieve? So it's about getting the data together and orchestrating it, getting the right data in the right place at the right time. So if we move to the next one, we can dive a little bit more on the limitations or reasons that companies are saying they're facing when scaling AI. We see the first one, talent or people, is difficult to mobilize sometimes. We need to embed that culture a little bit. Scott and Maya were mentioning that as well in their presentations. Data limitations, that's where we're coming from, as well as the tech and platform limitations. So that second and fourth case is where XFuse can really help you accelerate. And then we get all of that North Star, or what is the main use case problem? Is it too niche? Is it a limited value and very focused approach? Is it deemed as excessive risk, for example? So all of that come into place in some shape or form. But yeah, we try to sort out at least the data and tech, and we'll help empowering your people as a result of that. If you move to the next slide, we see with a lot of our customers and companies that we talk to, there are several verticals that they care about, and Scott very nicely put in place as different use cases. Sometimes we have to take a step back because you might be looking at the specific vertical. Let's say I have an issue with my stock, or there are issues around my store management or supply chain, let's say. So in those cases where the focus is not really there, what we try to do is go to the specific KPI. Can we pinpoint what is that issue and where is causing friction? Is it average order value? Is it margin? Is it around cash flow that we need to improve? Is it cart abandonment for digital or e-com? Customer lifetime value? Don't we have enough recurrent customers? So we look at the specific KPI and then start building the roadmap from there. What are the components of this KPI? What are the data components that we need to bring together? Those different buildings in the city. So we start pulling the road network, the highway where it should go, or the small path where it should go, right? It's not always the most expensive and tech advanced solution, but we just deem it based on what is your North Star, what is then the data required for it, the connections and integrations and orchestrations that are required, and then that rolls the red carpet really for the AI or ML. Sometimes it might not be even AI, it might be a statistical analysis, let's say, something more classic, but proven in science. And sometimes it might be going all the way to agentic. We need to automate certain decisions or certain business processes. If we move to the next slide, this is basically what I was saying. Sometimes it's about implementing a traditional AI or ML or even a statistical analysis software. So that would be your junior analyst or optimizer for a certain process. Sometimes it's more about creating new data points or new value in your system, in your company. So that's the creator, that's a generative AI. That's what we have seen with ChatGPT, creating images, ideas, videos, and content, etc. And then the third one, and this is the new wave that is becoming more and more prevalent in 2016, is that worker, that full automation that can automate all of the mechanic stuff that really is very little value for your employees, and empower them to be the reviewers of those minions, let's say, these mini workers that are working and doing those mechanic tasks or repetitive tasks. Then your employees become empowered into the journey of, wow, I can spawn a lot of these and automate a lot of my processes. So yeah, if you move to the next slide. When we talk to businesses, we also have this, it's a completely different pyramid from Maya's, but it's a similar one in the sense that we're in the data journey. This is a data specific pyramid. A lot of the companies already passed the hurdles of those two first bottom slices in the pyramid. So they're already in the cloud, whatever cloud provider they might have, even if it's just in the Google Suite or Microsoft with Teams, etc. They might have already, or they already have a CRM, an ERP, HR systems, and so on. But then in getting the data together and in a clean way, deduplicated, as Scott said, and in the cleanest way possible, we see some of them struggling. So most of the companies that we talk to are struggling either in the data foundation or in the integration and data orchestration. And that's really the bottleneck that we're seeing, because then from there, it's just about cherry picking and choosing. If you've got the right data in place and it's arriving at the right time and the way it should, then everything rolls up from there. We can cherry pick on AI or ML, your large language models, your agentic, and automate some use case. Everything is commoditized from there on. The difficult challenge and where your business logic exists and all of the complex processes is in that layer of data foundation and integration. You move to the next one. Yeah, this is how XFuse tries to or achieves that. So we've got smart connectors through all of your systems that get the data together in the digital integration hub. So those are the highways and road network that I spoke about before. All of that data is then compiled into a unified data repository that is then also sent to a data lakehouse. And from there on is where the insights and predictive analytics rolls out as a subsequent tool. All of that data that it gets compiled and cleaned is also available for third-party systems. So you can send to your CRM system cleaner customer data or data that has been processed by an AI, for example, or it can be serving other agents themselves provided by third-party systems. We move to the next one. It's conscious of time. This is the same slide as before, but instead of horizontal, it has been put vertically and squeezed a little bit. But we wanted to highlight on top how the data verticals are what we would be focusing on. Once you've got that base layer in place, it's about, are we going to focus on buying and merchandising, retails and the stores, and then there inside we'll have different KPIs to focus on. We move to the next one. And then, yeah, all of this has to be powered by modern tech. So all of those integration, data management, and insights capabilities, there is a set of subsequent capabilities that use modern cloud technology and composable. Moving to the next one, we highlight some of the agents that we have been deploying to our customers recently. Some of them are very similar to what Scott was talking about before. So demand forecasting and replenishment, for example, markdown and optimization, dynamic pricing as well is quite a significant case. But there are many others, and there are some of them that are about data itself. Can we have a data hygiene and watchdog agent looking at your data and when it drifts from the top quality that it could have, and alert us about that? So that will send us alerts on when a system is failing, for example, or when subsequently when sales are down or when margin is being eroded, and so on and so forth. Just wrapping up, we just in this slide is to highlight is about data integration, strong governance, start with small pilots, but make sure they scale, and all of that will empower your leadership, your people and processes in your organization. And then the last one is, we offer as well AI strategy and readiness audit, in which we drive that van ourselves and see how the agent will perform and help you in that journey. So thank you very much for listening today.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open it up now to the audience. We did get a few questions that have come in. I know we're almost running out of time, so I'm going to try and read them off very fast. Here's a question. We're a 60-store specialty retailer still on legacy ERP. Is AI even realistic for us? I think I'll direct that one to Maya.
Sure, great question. And the answer is absolutely yes. This is a question many of your peers are asking today. A few things to consider. Don't get caught up in some master data cleanup or multi-year digital transformation project. The industry is just moving too fast for that. So remember the discovery loop I mentioned earlier. First, identify a quantifiable business opportunity that's somewhere between a high financial impact and a low operational friction. In retail, that's almost always related to targeted demand forecasting. Here, you don't need a unified view of inventory across 3 legacy systems. You just need about 24 months of sales and promotional data for a specific category you've identified. Isolate that category, execute a 90-day pilot, prove the return, and use that momentum to fund and scale your next project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, this one is for Alberto. How do you handle data quality when a retailer's historical data is really messy?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, actually, and that those bumps in the road and potholes. So yeah, we need to identify the specific issue. Sometimes it might be something of data missing that we can interpolate between different data points and solve it out by itself. Sometimes we can use AI to try and fulfill that task. Can we actually implement a system that cleans that data? It can learn from cleaner data and copy it over to the dirtier data. Sometimes it's about just discarding it for the most business critical processes. But we try to have that as the latest advice. We always try and clean it first, try to make sense of it, try and use other cleaner data to learn from it. It will depend on the specific case, though. We'll have to assess.
Okay, and one last one quickly for Scott. What's the realistic investment for a mid-market retailer to get started?
That's a great question. I guess ties back to the title of our presentation in general, which is how do we do this in a cost-effective manner that it's not just for the really large retailers. So we put together interesting pricing to get going. We do have an initial sort of setup and configuration. We build out your pipeline. You do data analysis, custom model training, integration setup, and some team onboarding. And that's like a one set price, $75,000. Get started pretty easily. Then we have actually different tiers that we've broken in based on the sales volume, number of transactions, the size of the retailer essentially, and the number of modules. But it starts as little as $5,000 a month. So it's still pretty inexpensive across your organization. Even when you combine those two numbers, it's really pretty manageable. And that's why we're encouraging people to, again, get started with the growth idea. And then you can grow into our other modules, which are Enterprise and Elite. Enterprise being a compilation or a combination of multiple modules and capabilities, and then Elite being wherever you want to go, we can kind of work with you independently. So.
Great. Okay. Thank you for those of you that submitted those questions. Fantastic questions. I guess we are at the end. So let me just close out with this thought. AI in retail is both the great leveler and the ultimate differentiator. It promises to democratize access to innovation, yet rewards those bold enough to reinvent their business from the ground up. The companies winning aren't the ones with the biggest budgets. They're the ones willing to explore, experiment, and execute with the right partners, the right data foundation, and the right starting point. So between Sophel's strategic expertise, Xiatech's data foundation capabilities, and FarsightIQ's modular retail native AI platform, mid-market retailers now, they do have everything they need to compete with the biggest players in the industry. You don't need $1 billion budget to win with AI in retail. You just need the right approach. So thank you, Scott. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Alberto. To our audience, thank you. If any of this resonated, I'm sure either one of you on the panel would love to continue the conversation, and feel free to reach out to any of them and us. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice day.